Hi everybody, welcome to today's seminar. I'm just going to get the introduction up so that I can introduce Dr. Lucia del Carmen Vazquez Rocha. So she's a registered dietitian in both Mexico and the United Kingdom. She graduated with honours and became a registered dietitian working as a clinical dietitian within a hospital where she fell in love with clinical dietetics. She's worked as an independent consultant for 8 years while simultaneously working as a consultant for women with osteoporosis and cancer. Lucia has worked as a lead dietitian for PAMD, which PAMDY, which is a charity dedicated to the integral treatment of children and adolescents with type 1 diabetes. She's also worked part-time for food companies like Nestle. She's combined her clinical work with her passion for teaching, working as a lecturer and a tutor in Mexico. As a researcher, Lucia worked with the International Life Sciences Institute Europe. Lucia has obtained a diploma in diabetes educator, which is awarded by the Mexican Diabetes Federation. In 2014, she obtained a scholarship from the Mexican government to study a PhD at the University of Nottingham. She graduated in 2019, and later that year, her first journal article was also published. In 2020, she became accredited as an obesity expert by the World Obesity Federation. And as I said earlier, she has done a brilliant talk for us on immunity and nutrition. And today's session will be on nutrition and mental health. We'd really like to thank Lucia for her time. And yes, we would love for you all to engage in the chat with any queries that you have throughout the session, which Lucia will address to follow. So thank you very much and welcome to Lucia.
Thank you so much, Christiana, for the invitation, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you, everyone who joined. I know that most of us are a bit tired of Zoom meetings, but I hope today's session is useful for you. First, I also like to clarify that even though nutrition plays an important role in mental health, it is also important that treating mental health issues or mental health problems has to be in a multidisciplinary team. Not only the dietitian is involved, obviously doctor, psychiatrist, psychologist. So nutrition plays a part, but not entirely. So when someone is diagnosed with a mental health problem, it should be a multidisciplinary treatment that person should receive. Also, when I was preparing this presentation, I don't know why all of a sudden I was in YouTube and then it appeared a video in which a German psychiatrist was talking about depression and during COVID pandemic. And she was saying that this pandemic, this lockdown will make us feel a bit sad and down sometimes, and it's common. However, saying that, oh, I feel depressed, or I have depression, shouldn't be taken lightly. Depression is a mental health problem. It's a mental health disease. And as so, it should be diagnosed appropriately. So whenever we feel a bit down or I feel a bit sad, just don't say I'm depressed, because depression is a word that should be used only for those who are diagnosed with it. So just to clarify these two things. But well, now I'm going to start with the presentation. I will start with a question. I'm going to ask you, and I hope you can answer in the chat. I would like to ask you, according to what you know, what you read, do you think or do you consider that sugar is addictive? Yes, no, or you're not sure. I think you have heard a lot about sugar and all the sugar addiction, how to cut sugar, how to avoid sugar, because sugar is toxic and sugar will make you addictive. So yeah, well, I have some answers. Majority says no, yes, not sure. Okay, we will clarify. I will clarify this as the presentation goes on. Yeah, some of you said no. So, okay, we're going to have a look at this. First, well, it's important to know what is mental health. Without mental health, we are not properly healthy. Yeah, because health is about, or being healthy involves not only the body, but also the mind. World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the person or the individual realizes his or her own abilities. This person can cope with normal stress of life and can work productively and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So this big term involves what mental health is. That's why it's important to don't use certain words as depression lightly, because we all know we sometimes don't feel productive in certain days. Sometimes we don't want to, but it's because probably we are getting lots of work and we have to deal as well with children at home and all, but it is defined by the World Health Organization. Sadly, approximately 1 in 6 people in Britain has a diagnosis of mental disorder or mental illness. This was a survey made in 2014. Sadly, probably after lockdown, after the pandemic is over, hopefully not too late, this will increase. As a dietitian, the most common mental health issues I've seen obviously are eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, especially in teenagers. The brain plays a big role obviously in mental health, but the brain is such a complex organ, and nutrition plays a big part on how the brain works. And yeah, we can see that smiley brain who is really happy. And yes, a healthy brain will make us feel good and will make us work well during the day. There are certain nutrients that can affect the way we cope, the way we feel. And one important nutrient is caffeine. Caffeine in excess, it's important to say, because I know if you're like me, I love coffee. So most of us need coffee sometimes as well to wake up, to feel better. But the excess of caffeine can cause insomnia, nervousness, restlessness, stomach irritation, nausea, increased heart and respiration rate. So caffeine in excess in someone that has anxiety or is nervous or has problems with insomnia, then caffeine can exacerbate all those symptoms. Larger doses might cause headache, anxiety, agitation, chest pain, and ringing in the ears. And this can exacerbate conditions such as anxiety. It's important you don't overdrink drinks with caffeine. For example, maximum 2 or 3 cups per day. Let's remember that caffeine is present not only in coffee, but also in black tea, in cocoa. So it's important to don't take more of this. It's also important that don't take caffeine, try to avoid caffeine as much as possible after 4 p.m. because if we get insomnia, if we take caffeine, then it would be more difficult if we take caffeine after 4 p.m., 3 or 4 p.m., it depends. We might not get proper sleep. So it's important to cut caffeine reduction after that time because caffeine stays in the blood system for quite long. So that's why it's important you don't drink caffeine after 3 or 4 p.m. Also, it's important to don't drink caffeine during meals. For example, I know here in the UK, people drink a lot of black coffee. However, caffeine inhibits the absorption of other nutrients like calcium and iron. So that's why it's important to drink drinks with caffeine after we have our meal, either breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Oh my God. Okay, another nutrient that influence the brain power are carbohydrates. I know that it's very trendy, or when people want to lose weight, avoid carbs, try to eat less carbs, and that's how you will lose weight. Well, it's probably not the best idea. Why? Because carbohydrates produce glucose once they are consumed, and the brain needs glucose to properly function. The brain helps us, the glucose that goes to the brain helps us to concentrate, to focus. And in fact, the brain uses 20% of all the energy your body needs. And that energy comes from glucose, and that glucose comes from carbohydrates. So glucose is also vital to fuel muscles and maintain body temperature. For example, I have treated adolescents with anorexia, and because they don't eat much, they're always cold. Their hands are very cold because obviously they are not eating much. Their body is not getting enough nutrients. But where the glucose come from? Which carbohydrates? When it comes to carbohydrates, we have fruit, vegetables, cereals, bread, rice, potatoes, sugar, and lactose in milk. All those products have carbohydrates, which turn into glucose. And when we don't have enough glucose in our blood, it's called hypoglycemia. And this can make you feel weak, tired, and fuzzy-minded. It's important to the first meal in the morning, or breakfast, to include some carbohydrates, because that will help us to don't feel too tired or fuzzy-minded. When I was a kid in Mexico, every Monday morning we had this small ceremony in every school that is called Salute the Flag. So all the children were gathered in the patio in the school, and there was like the raising the flag, and we all sing the anthem. And some of the children faint because they didn't have breakfast. And obviously your brain is not receiving glucose. That's why this happened. You can feel fizzy and ended up fainting. That's why it's vital. It's important to feed our brain with glucose that comes from carbohydrates. About answering the question at the beginning, can sugar be addictive? Well, those who said no were right. Sugar is not addictive. But where this rumor came from? Well, firstly, because there was a study, there is the link over there, is the reference, that these researchers put a group of rats. They fed them with saccharin, which is a type of sugar, and they fed another group with cocaine. So they found out that both rats groups develop addiction, the cocaine and the saccharin and the cocaine group. So obviously the foods and, oh no, sugar is addictive. No. First of all, it's important to say that we cannot translate animal studies to human. It needs to be more research, especially translating that study into humans. That that would be quite impossible, not ethic, to give cocaine and saccharin to people. Also, the diagnostic and statistical manual does not, it's very clear in the what an addiction is, and it's written down there. So clearly, sugar is not addictive. It doesn't cause addiction. However, sugar releases dopamine and serotonin in the body. And what are those two? Well, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a role in how we feel pleasure. Okay, dopamine is released when we eat comfort food, when we eat something with sugar that we really like, even during sex. Dopamine is released. Serotonin is a hormone that stabilizes our mood and feelings of well-being and happiness. So that's why many people think that, oh, sugar is addictive. Not exactly. It releases neurotransmitters and hormones that makes us feel good, makes us feel great. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you, for example, what do you eat when you, what is your comfort food? What do you write in the chat so we can have a look at how do you find comfort eating? What kind of food causes comfort? For example, for me, it's cake. I love cake. Whenever I want to feel good, or I don't know, to me it's cake. Probably from others is another type of food. Not everyone goes into sweets. Chocolate cake, all junk, pasta, exactly. All that has carbohydrates. And as we look at the previous slide, carbohydrates, that glucose is good for the brain. So serotonin, as I said before, improves mood and how we feel. Serotonin is made with part of protein from the diet, tryptophan, and eating carbohydrate-rich foods may help more of this to get into your brain. Carbohydrate craving, eating sweet comfort foods, it's good to boost your mood. So don't feel bad whenever you want to eat a piece of chocolate, a glass of wine, someone mentioned, or a slice of cake or your favorite food. If it makes you feel good, go for it. Sometimes I think we feel guilty about, oh, I feel guilty, I ate a cupcake. No, but if it makes you feel good and make you feel good, just go for it. I mean, don't be shy, don't be ashamed. I think sometimes even us dietitians are too picky and too on this, but no, just have some of it and feel happy. I mean, we are in lockdown, we are in this horrible pandemic, so go for it as long as it makes you feel happy and good. Which other nutrient is also involved in the mood and how our brain works? Well, there is evidence that omega-3 fatty acids or long-chain entry fatty acids support especially the development of the fetus during pregnancy, particularly the brain. Also, some systematic reviews and meta-analysis have reported significant clinical benefits of omega-3 or N3 fatty acids intervention in the treatment of depression. Where can we find long-chain omega-3 fatty acids? Well, there is an image over there. You can find it in salmon, in olive oil, avocado, tuna, sardines, almonds, peanuts, chia. So all these foods that are considered good fats are good for mental well-being, and in pregnancy are particularly important. Then there is also, probably you have read or probably you have seen about this, is the gut-brain axis. So there's been a lot of research recently published about how the gut is involved on the mental health or in the mood. So, first it's important to say that what is the gut microbiome? Well, the gut microbiome are the trillions of bacteria resident in the human colon. And there's a relationship between this amount of bacteria with mood. However, the research has not been as consistent to provide the enough evidence or the recommendation of how many bacteria in the gut we need to increase our mood. So more consistent research outcomes are needed before any valid claims can be made out of this. But obviously there's a lot of market now with probiotics, prebiotics that increase the bacteria in the gut, but the relationship between mood and microbiome is still unclear. Vitamin D. Vitamin D, we talked about 2 weeks ago when it comes to immunity. Vitamin D also plays a big role in the brain because there is a receptor in the brain of vitamin D. And again, it has been shown, research, that attention deficit sufferers have low levels of vitamin D compared with healthy controls, and low serum vitamin D levels is associated with worse cognitive outcomes. Vitamin D is especially important in elderly because it has been found out that those with low levels of vitamin D have a increased decline in mental state examination scores and accelerated cognitive decline. So obviously, as we grow old, we have or cognitivity declines. However, if we are deficient in vitamin D, this comes in a more accelerated way. Here, well, I have a table with another nutrients that are important for the mood. For example, iron. We got that some of the symptoms of person that's feeling weak, tired, and lethargic all the time. We can find iron in red meat, especially poultry, fish, beans, pulses, fortified cereals. As I mentioned before, avoid drinking tea and coffee with meals because the caffeine inhibits the absorption of iron, and that's the dose that we must eat every day. For women, it's more than men because we have periods, so that's why we have to eat a little bit more iron than men. Then we got the vitamins, all B vitamins. When we are deficient, how we feel? Well, we feel tired, depressed, or irritable. So in which foods can we find vitamins, all B vitamins? Well, in fortified foods, including whole grain cereals, animal proteins such as meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. Vitamin B12, it's only present in animal products, and vegans might be deficient of this vitamin. So that's why important that vegans should supplement vitamin B12. But if you're a vegan, if you're following a vegan regime, it's the only vitamin that you have to supplement. Otherwise, it has been proved scientifically that vegan diets are well balanced, are good, and are healthy. Only supplemented vitamin B12. Then we got folic acid. It's another vitamin that when it's missing, we have the increased chance of feeling depressed, and this is particularly important in older people. Folic acid or folate is found in liver, green vegetables, oranges, and other citrus fruits, beans, fortified foods such as this extract or marmite, and fortified breakfast cereals. Pregnant women need to take more folic acid, as well as women who intend to become pregnant. Also, selenium is another mineral that when it's missing may increase the incidence of feeling depressed or in another negative mood states. Some of the foods sources are Brazil nuts, meat, fish, seeds, and wholemeal bread. So if you feel a little bit your mood is a bit negative, just grab a handful of nuts, and you might end up feeling much better. Physical activity also plays a big role in our mental mood, Evidence shows that exercise improves mental health, well-being, reduces depression, anxiety. Also, it can be an effective treatment for depression. So I had many clients that they only do exercise to lose weight. However, physical activity or exercise is important for our mood as well, for our muscles, for our bones. It has plenty of benefits. So physical activity, as you can see, according to research, is also good for our mental health. So in short, the recommendations are, to summarize, is that feeling good comes from a diet that has enough healthy choice carbohydrate. At regular times, it's important to take regular times to keep blood glucose levels stable, and eating breakfast is a sensible habit. Probably some of you the first thing you have in the morning is a black coffee, but I encourage you to have a smoothie, a banana, probably a toast with some Marmite, and see how you feel. Instead of coffee, swap for something that has carbohydrates, good carbohydrates, and see how you feel. The diet should also contain a wide variety of protein and vitamin and mineral containing foods to support the body's functions. And as a rule, have plenty of fruits and vegetables, whole grain cereal foods. With some protein foods, try to include oily fish. will support a good supply for nutrients for good health and good mood. If you're vegetarian, there are plenty of other sources that have omega-3 fatty acids like chia, avocado, almonds. So there are plenty of sources that you can include, both animal or vegetable. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for your attention. And I'm here to answer if you have any question, then yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucia. I'm really, really grateful for your talk.